Hey everybody, it's Cam from the Nerd Book Review. Today is my April roundup and a little bit of channel news. If I had to define this month by one thing, it would be the month that I discovered that I enjoy LitRPG as a genre. In addition to that, you guys probably also know that I did not get very many videos out this month. It'll be about 3 weeks from the time my last video aired until this one comes out. That one is basically, for the most part, because I've just been crazy busy. This last week, I worked 66 hours and then also had, kids' sporting events. Right now, as I'm recording this, it is Sunday morning, about 7:30. At 2, my son has a birthday party. I just turned 9, so, just crazy. And next weekend, I will be going to my son's first out-of-town soccer tournament. He's very excited about it, but we're going to leave on Friday and we won't be home till Sunday night if they make it to either the third place game or the championship game in that tournament. If they don't, they still have a game at like 8 o'clock on Sunday morning. So obviously it's about a 3-hour drive to where the tournament is. So not getting anything done next weekend either. So I'm going to try to record 3 videos this morning, this one and a couple of the other ones that I've read recently. So as mentioned, this has basically been the month of the LitRPG for me. Now, I've actually only read 4 LitRPG books out of the 11, but it was definitely something that, as a genre that I've never particularly cared for in the past. Part of that was because my first couple of attempts at reading LitRPG came from having worlds where the character was like part of an adventuring family already, and like the real drama was whether they were going to live up to their family's expectations, and I just didn't find that I cared for those characters because of that. Well, what I've discovered is that Isekai or Portal LitRPG is something that I really enjoy. Dungeon Crawler Carl, from Matt Dinneman, showed that basically, like, if a character gets thrown into a dungeon or has their world massively change on them, and that's why they are forced to level up and do the things they do, then I care about those characters and I actually want them to succeed, and as opposed to just being like, well, I don't really care, right? So far, from what I've figured out from this month, is that because I love world building so much these days, I really like the LitRPG. I like to learn the new magic systems, the new worlds that they go into. One of the other books that I read this month, that I like, Daughters of Tith by Patricia Anderson, I really enjoyed, and there's like 400 or 500 pages before there's really any action scenes at all, right? As long as the world building is cool, and there goes the dog down the stairs. See what she decides that she's gonna do. She's carrying on. She's carrying on. Ah, there we are. Probably can't be here anymore. Hardwood floors and a dog clinking along doesn't always work. So getting back on track, though, I just love world building at this point in my life, and I love cool magic systems, and I have found that a LitRPG that can be done, and even sometimes if the writing's not great, as long as the world building and leveling system is cool, then I've enjoyed it. Now, one thing that's important to note that I've just discovered, because I've never worried about LitRPG in the past, is that LitRPG authors, they do their stuff on either Patreon or one of the other platforms, and they're often putting out a chapter or 2 every week or 2, right? I think Matt Dinneman puts out a chapter every 2 weeks at the longest. So because of that, there's going to be less quality control compared to a lot of books that go through, an author will write over the course of 6 months or a year and then have 6 months of editing before it's put out. That's the publishing model for traditionally published fantasy at the very least, right? Is that, as a general rule, it's about an 18-month full process turnaround, and that's, traditionally when a book would be put out, a new book every 18 months. Well, with LitRPG, so the Defiance of the Fall, for example, that I just got done reading, he put out like 3,300 pages last year. The year before that was, it was a similar number, and the very first year that he came out was like 2,200. There's 12 books already in that Defiance of the Fall series, and those were all put out since in the last basically 2.5, 3 years, right? So because of that, the writing quality itself is sometimes not as high. And I've so far with a couple of them, like Dungeon Crawler Carl, that his quality is still amazing. Apparently, he just has the ability to put out well polished material very quickly. The Shirtaloon, Travis something or other, I forgot to write down his name. I don't know why I only wrote Shirtaloon down. That's what his moniker that he goes by. He also actually puts out some pretty quality material in terms of like the editing and the writing skill as well. But I have noticed that a couple of them, that I've read so far have been less than stellar when it comes to the editing. Defiance of the Fall, which I hope to record here shortly, that one can irritate me at times. At one point, the phrase "he couldn't be bothered" was used in 4 straight sentences. And also threw me off that he used, like, I've never even heard the word decameters, which apparently is a tiny, like a fraction of a centimeter. But anyways, the character's supposed to be American. If he was like European or something and everything was metric and thrown out as often as it was, it wouldn't, I wouldn't even bat an eye. But an American like ad agency executive gets thrown into it, threw me off for a while. But the important thing is that I loved the premise behind it. I loved the world building, the leveling, all that kind of stuff. And so I still really enjoyed my book. So let's go ahead and talk about those books real fast, and then we'll talk about what I'm going to do moving forward in the second part of this. So I started off with another Dungeon Crawler Carl, the 6th book, Bedlam Bride. Really enjoyed it. I think it might have been my least favorite of the 6 so far, but I think the last couple of hours of it were like maybe the best 2 or 3 hours of audiobook in the entire series. I just really enjoyed it. I didn't love the level as much as what it was with this one. Then I had Daughters of Tith, which I actually physically read by J. Patricia Anderson. This was like an 850-page chonker about like these immortal people that are basically birthed fully formed from their parent tree, like sentient trees. They were supposed to be like humanity's guardians, but for generations now they have been stopped from going through the portals to the 9 Earths that they are supposed to be guiding for. And I say immortal, but they do get old, and then they go back inside the tree and they come back out still fully formed, but only having the memories that their parent tree gives them. So most of them, don't remember what the Earths were like or anything like that, even though it's the same body and the same personality, soul, if you will. After that, I read the first 2, the shorter of the trilogy of trilogies from Rob Hayes and his new God Eater saga, Demon and Deathless. Now, these 2 are both about 200-ish pages long. One was set 3,000 years before the main book, and one was set 1,000 years before the main book, which is like 800-ish pages long. I really enjoy the premise of them. The first book, I loved the main character as well, so it was a 10 out of 10 for me. That'll probably be going on my book of the year list. But Rob Hayes himself told me that I should have read the main book first and then considered the other 2 books to be more like supplements, even if they came before. And he's right. I should have read the main book first, because I feel like, as opposed to like giving out spoiler information, probably they gave out they basically expounded on the story and gave you that background information. The Herald, the main book, is definitely the one that is the main focus here. It's a cool premise, right? He put out all 3 first books from 3 separate trilogies at the same time. And then the next round, he'll put out all 3 book 2s, and then finally all 3 book 3s. He did say that he's got most of the book 2s written at this point, and these books will come out in over the course of like June and July. Herald, the one that is like, if you call it the current timeline, it comes out first, and then the other 2 will come out after that. So I would recommend going in that order if that's what you choose to do. Then, of course, no month of this year would be complete without going through another Sun Eater book. I read Ashes of Man by Christopher Rocchio. That's the 5th book. I would put it probably as either my 2nd or 3rd favorite of the 5 so far. Demon in White, the 3rd book, is, at this point, my favorite sci-fi space opera book of all time now. I just loved it. But I also really enjoyed this book. After not enjoying Death Eater quite as much as the rest of the books, I really enjoyed this one a lot more again, though. After that, I read He Who Fights with Monsters. That's the LitRPG, as mentioned by Shirtaloon. Travis something or other. I should have written that down as well. But this is a case of me loving the world building and story, and I loved the LitRPG element of it. I thought it was really, really well done and really cool. Hated the main character. Jason was his name. He gets brought over from Australia, and then he hates the caste systems, the inequality that are in this world. That's understandable. Everyone should hate inequality, but he goes about it by basically being a jackass. And he's also an atheist and thinks the whole concept of gods is stupid. Only in this world, the gods are very real. He meets like 4 of them, and still is a jackass to them and says, your whole system is stupid, despite having, priests in this case that we know are real, right? Like we're seeing, these gods make appearances in this book. They have the powers that they claim they have and all that kind of stuff, right? But it's like one of those things where while I agree with most of his viewpoints here on Earth, who is he to go into, this other Earth, basically, this other dimension? Our Earth has almost no magic. That's why we don't have the same system that is in place in this other, alternate, basically, world that has high magic, and that's why, all of the stuff that's happening happens there. But I couldn't stand Jason, so that's one of those things where at some point I'll probably go back and read the second one, but because of that, it's just like, I don't know if I can handle that. That review will come out sometime in May, though. I am putting a review out for it because I liked the LitRPG element of it. After that, I read Exile by Martin Outen. It's a pretty short, standard, a little bit darker fantasy. Definitely not grimdark, but your standard, very little magic, but there is some magic in it. I found it was an enjoyable book, but I just never quite loved it. I probably won't put out a review for that one. The biggest reason is that it packs a lot of like politics, and we jump into the world like running, and it's only like a 280-page book though. So I felt like I needed about 200 more pages of backstory and character development for me to like really have cared about those characters. I gave it a 7 out of 10 still. It's well written. I didn't find it hard to follow or anything like that, despite being thrown right into the thick of things. But I just found that I didn't necessarily care whether the so-called good guys or bad guys won. I don't know why I was supposed to care about the politics of it, because we don't hear that backstory at any point. After that, then I read that Defiance of the Fall that I talked about. That one is probably one of the most poorly written books that I've ever enjoyed. That's the best way to put it. The whole premise of Defiance of the Fall is that Earth ends up being integrated into the multiverse. Billions of years ago, this emperor was trying to take over the whole universe, but he was having trouble where like he was losing so many people over this millions of year-long war that people weren't being trained up to join his army. So he created this AI, and it is slowly integrating all these worlds in order to try to create good warriors, despite the fact that the Emperor's been gone for millions and millions of years himself. So Earth finally, it was its turn. It gets jumbled in actually with several other worlds because it doesn't have enough magic in it, and so they're put together until they have enough magic to create the class system. So the reason that the LitRPG element in this one exists was because that Emperor created this, basically god-level AI that forces people to fight and level up and become warriors, or they can become support classes as well. But Earth, gets integrated. and our main character, Zach is his name. He ends up, becoming fighting and leveling up. And basically, you're forced to do these things, right? So, because of that, like the premise, I actually thought that this one had a lot of base building elements as well. That was really cool. I really found that I liked how there was both leveling and base building. So, big fan of that. Then I read, or listened to more accurately, Superpowers Year One by Drew Hayes. This is one that someone mentioned that they enjoyed. It was free on Audible, so I jumped on that since I have definitely, blew a few credits here this month. This one is basically the premise is that there are superpowered people, then there are people who are called powards who have superpowers, but they can't control them. If they're dangerous, then they have to be, basically shunted off somewhere or probably killed, who knows. But if they aren't, then they're still kind of pariahs, right? People who are super powered, who can control theirs, they don't like powered, and neither does the general populace, because sometimes, bad things can happen. Well, right at the beginning, we have 5 kids who get an experimental procedure done that takes them from being powered to making them supers. Then they go to college. This college is a big normal college, but it also has a hero certification program, and they throw them in there. It's a secret that they used to be powards and they now have superpowers. All of them are, very strong in their abilities though, and they're going to train and try to become supers, certified superheroes. It's funny that you have to actually do super hero stuff, you need to be certified. A large part of that is because of like insurance reasons, right? So really enjoyed it. I will definitely probably carry on with this series. I have the entire first 4 books that I got for free, so I'm probably going to put those in here as the months go on. My last 2 books that I completed are Dawn of the Void by Phil Tucker. This is one that I actually read. It's another LitRPG, basically the Earth. At least in the end of this book, we still don't know exactly why, but kind of same thing. They get integrated in, it says like your 60,000 year countdown has ended, and now the testing phase basically begins. Demons start pouring out, and our main character was like a homeless man who used to be an EMT. He ends up fighting off his first demon, and then kills a whole bunch of others, and we're learning how the leveling system works throughout this one. Phil Tucker is an author who I've read his non-lit RPG works in the past, his more traditional stuff. He's a great author. I did read this one. This one is probably the best written of all of the ones I've read, because Phil he used to write other types of books, and I think this one was written in the more traditional way where he wrote all of these first and then put them all out. So just the best edited and stuff. But I probably my least favorite of the actual lit RPG elements of the 4 series that I've read so far, but the best written one of them. So I still really enjoyed it. I think I'm going to give that one a 9 out of 10. I just finished that one up a couple days ago. Then after that, the last one is a oldie for me. Before Dungeon Crawler Carl, Age of Myth, and that trilogy that part of the Chronicles of Rirya by Michael J. Sullivan was my very favorite audiobooks of all time. I think Dungeon Crawler Carl has probably supplanted them, but I thought, you know what? I got to go back and give Age of Myth another listen, because somehow, despite listening to it while I was doing the podcast, I never ended up putting out a podcast episode for some reason, though. So I will absolutely be putting out a YouTube episode. I know that Sullivan has a whole lot newer books that he probably would have preferred me to be doing episodes on, but this is my favorite of his, very long Chronicles of Rirya. Or just, I guess, Rirya series, because I think they have different names for different sections of it. But my favorite of his is this trilogy. And so I will be putting out a review of that one here shortly. Still really loved the audiobook. I love the dry British humor, the kind of the absurdity of some of the situations, just all around fun. Also, I had 2 books that I had a DNF for. The Hand of God by Yuval Kordov. It was like a sci-fi style book, post-apocalyptic. But the problem for me with it is that it was really artsy. That's the best way to put it. I'm struggling with the correct words right now this morning, but there's like dream sequences, and then there's stuff that happens where you don't know if it's real or not. And much like movies for me, like when that I'm not like a big art house movie fan. That's what this felt like as a book for me. It wasn't that it wasn't well written. It's just that I was struggling to figure out what was going on, what was real, what wasn't, and I don't really like that. For me personally, that's just not my thing. My other DNF for the month was Anna Smith Sparks' A Woman of the Sword. This is another one where so this one was written and purposefully with a character who's depressed. Her husband has just died. She was a warrior, and that's how like her and her husband met. She settled down because he wanted to settle down. Now she's trying to raise a couple of young children while being depressed, and it was written, you know, kind of in that like viewpoint, and it just wasn't something that I was exactly like vibing with as I was reading for this month. I really want to give her other series a real shot because I hear such great things about her, but this certainly wasn't the book for me. Just the style that it was written in was kind of like The Hand of God, where it was a purposeful style, but it just didn't work for me. So this video is already getting good and long right now. We're going to go stop real quick, and then I'm going to record my May goals, what I want to do for May real quick, and then I'm going to hopefully get Defiance of the Fall in here before everybody else is awake and ready to go for the day, and maybe sometime in the next couple weeks I can get these edited. But like I said, I've almost got enough videos recorded for my two videos a week. Already for the entire month. I've got 4 videos currently already edited and scheduled, and then add this one and the next couple, and I'll be all good to go. All right, thanks everybody. Bye.